I don't need to ease you into it. It's one of the longest running anime manga of all time. The best selling manga of all time. No, the best selling comic of all time. 580 million units sold. In terms of fiction, only Harry Potter sold more. It is one of the biggest and best selling pieces of fiction ever, with 1071 episodes and 1081 chapters. The true labour of love given to us by Eiichiro Oda. One Piece. And we're here to witness its most landmark moment, one of the most hyped scenes of all time. Gear 5. One Piece. From beginning to end, has shown again and again why it's one of my favourite works, why it continues to hold a strong place in my heart. Perhaps it's the hyperhuman element that undercuts all of it. Perhaps it's the strong characters that form the backbone of Sen. Maybe it's the masterful writing that's created the best world building in anime. In truth, it's a combination of the prior, as well as the core themes. One Piece is a number, some more obvious than others, like any good work should. I don't know whether it's the underlying pursuit of freedom that undercuts the show, or maybe it's the camaraderies that are formed. Perhaps, for my last reason, it's because the entire anime and manga are socio-political Marxist allegory for libertarian socialism. Maybe I have no reason at all. None of that really matters in the end. The hows and whats of why we like a certain thing are difficult to pin down. I like DxD, is it good? Nah. But I think in this case, One Piece is great, and I do like it. It does a number of things exceptionally well. So it's natural that Gear 5 would have had a great impact on me when I first read it, right? Wrong. I hated it. It wasn't because I thought it was an arse-port, and it wasn't because I thought it was plot armor. It wasn't because I thought it was any of those things. There are times when those issues are okay, but not in this one. It was earned, that much I can say. But I had an issue with its theme. Before I get into my issues, what is a theme anyway? Contrary to belief, it's not the details of the story. You could say it's the heart of the story, the soul itself. It's the underlying message, the thing that the story wishes for you to take away. Personally, for me, a theme is best when it isn't thrown in our face, as if we're blind or deaf. We can tell what a theme is. An underlying theme in One Piece was freedom. There were callbacks, there were moments in which we knew just what it wanted us to know, without being overtly told just what it was to be. But then we received Gear 5. It was freedom personified, and freedom has been a running theme of One Piece, to be the most free. That's what it means to be Pirate King. From the promise at a cliffside, to the pledge at the bottom of the mountain, to the many promises that were made later on. Beyond simply chasing dreams, there's a freedom that each of these characters is seeking. That freedom was made no more obvious than by Gear 5, and if you've been following so far, you'd know that this isn't something I jive with well. It was overt. It was in your face. Rather than a theme, it might as well have been an atmospheric nuke that blew away any facade of subtlety. But that isn't all. If that were it, I'd merely grumble just a little bit. It wasn't just that it was in your face, but that it was enforced. The uncontrollable laughter, the silliness, that felt fun, free and fitting for it. But it also hid something else that I felt disagreed with one of those core themes in One Piece. Enforced freedom couldn't be freedom was how I saw it. Awakening made Luffy silly in the most serious of moments. It was altering his behaviour, forcefully whenever he used. In terms of powers, it's a good foil, but in terms of theming, I thought it was a pretty terrible choice at the time, and I thought it ran counter to what they tried to push this entire time. But I had a belief in Eiichiro Oda who hadn't led us astray yet. It was a powerful thing, this belief. The arguments that occurred in the most neck-beardy parts of the internet were really something at the time. Oda knows what he's doing. Oda foreshadowed this. Oda's a genius. Oda this, Oda that, Oda. Really, we needed order, and we needed to see more of what Oda had planned. Egghead was that, but I won't talk anymore about spoilers. But he had managed to balance that needle well. The foil of this power was its strength, but more than that, he'd balanced the themes of the story, he'd kept it in touch with the atmosphere and set worries, my concerns to rest. And it wasn't by doing anything particularly special, it was by waiting for the story to continue. The knee-jerk reaction had subsided. By seeing more of Luffy, I realised it wasn't a particularly large shift, it was how he was, just enhanced. It allowed him to be more of himself. That was the subtlety. By using the sledgehammer, he could hide more of that underlying message behind such an open moment. All of this so far was just a preamble. Just a little explanation to get you on board, to bring you where I was a year ago. All of that had simply built an expectation for the anime, tuning in every week to see just how close we were. That built hype, and hype fed back into the expectation. Rumours flew, rumours built, and rumours exploded. Would it be the highest budget fighting anime? Were Toei actually going to call in Warner Brothers to help? What was everything going to build up for? All of these were a sign of our expectation. And as with all expectations, however, the hype is rarely met. Manga readers and anime onlys alike, whether what we've heard, seen, felt, all of that was something that we want to see on the screen. And well, Gear 5 certainly tried to deliver. Episode 1071. At the time of writing this, I had just finished it. Did it match the hype? No, but nothing could. We were far too hyped for our own good. The fight is an amazing one. It goes to lengths we hadn't seen in One Piece before, but yet, it wasn't the most expensive. And it wasn't Warner Brothers helped. Sure, we were all worried it looked like this when it came. Or a little more like this. But instead, we had an amazing fight, and we have more of it yet to come. We haven't seen all of it yet, but what we have so far does truly feel epic. That was the opening act to the last arc of One Piece, to Luffy's peak. It was the peak of One Piece animation. A number of one arcs have been. Look forward to a couple of my frame-by-frame analyses from fights I really enjoyed. And also make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Sure, it was Toei, so I really only got another 10 minutes of new content. A few animation loops, flashbacks, but all the same it was exciting. The explosion of Haki, the soundtrack, actually hearing the drums of liberation in action was exciting. As for Gear 5 itself, well, it was energetic to say the least. I wasn't sure how an animation studio in Japan would approach rubber hose animation, but somehow it did it. Toei isn't known for going all out, but in this case, everything from the sound effects to the impact to the movements. It felt anime, but it felt rubber hose anime. Yes, it seemed jarring at parts, but exciting all the same. It was funny, hilarious, yet somewhat uncanny. Really? It's no surprise. Rubber hose was born from the limitations of the time it was made in, and the lack of knowledge in that era. Animation was new, and rubber hose, while influential, didn't last that much longer as the main form of animation. In a way, for anime and for One Piece, that's a first. Maybe there's some anime from the 40s I don't know about. But to me, One Piece brought it over. Just like Rubber Hose's killer, Disney had influenced Astro Boy in the first generation of anime. It seems that the great shonen of the present has somehow done the same with Rubber Hose. Still, even if it is one of the most hyped moments in anime, even if it is getting a lot of focus right now, I don't think we'll appreciate these scenes this episode as much as we should until the series is completed. You might think it's because this is the last power up, but that's not really why. It's because this is the moment that truly represented the start of the end. One Piece really is preparing to close up, by giving us the main underlying theme of the series so upfront in such a manner. It's closing up, to create space in order to allow us to think about the rest of what is to come. The theme of One Piece is established, finally properly hammered in with the advent of Gear 5. The rest of it is simply us getting ready for what's to come. There would be no meat in the hype, but I think that One Piece is done pretty close in this episode, and we can only hope the following episodes keep the momentum going.
お前らを超えて海賊王になる男だ